Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
Welcome back, guys. We did this Patreon exclusive yesterday. It's not a good idea to trust blindly anything. Question everything. We want to give you guys thanks for supporting us over on Patreon and invite those that might have thought about it to come and join us over there for as little as $1 a month. Exclusive videos each week, most of the time, multiple times.
Indeed,
lots going on. A lot of people are getting ready for Christmas. Some famous old couples there are getting ready for Christmas. Pooty Poot. Oh, yeah, they're all getting ready for Christmas. And what do they want for Christmas? You know, they have their front teeth. At least some of them do. You know, this is obviously a little parody meme there somebody made up. But I do want to, reiterate, when you look at what happens in this world, so much of it is centered around key astrological dates and times, as we've talked about, Vedic astrology, but just going to something very, very basic and looking at the reality that the winter solstice is tomorrow. That's the shortest day of the year for the northern hemisphere. It's actually the opposite for the southern hemisphere. But most of the people on this planet that we know of, the vast majority of the population is in the northern hemisphere. Yet again, do they have something planned? Is there something of a ritualistic manner? Which, in our perspective, war is very ritualistic. Absolutely. And so tomorrow, it's December 21st. And, many people have seen the analogies with where a lot of the symbolism of our even religious traditions really come from. The darkest day of the year, it's like the sun is heading away, and then it stands still for basically like a 3-day period, and then reverses direction and starts to come higher in the sky again for those of us in the northern hemisphere. Stonehenge, all these sacred sites are aligned with the winter and summer solstice, and key timing when it comes to manifesting. We want to manifest peace, so please do put out your intentions of peace. Let there truly be peace on earth and goodwill towards men. I think that we are heading in the right direction with the majority of people on the planet, but the leadership of the planet has been heading in the wrong direction the entire time and still is, and actually might be rushing to head in that wrong direction as much as this old guy could rush here.
Oh yeah, we have a lot of things going on right now. I think that winter solstice is really a key time for them, and picking up on that energy and realizing that they do have every intention of trying to utilize that energy to create chaos. And they already have. They got the ball rolling. What are they going to do to make things explode? Well, they're definitely doing what they do. They're doing their rituals. They are making their, I don't want to say the words, but the S word, and just doing what controllers do to try to remain in control. So it could get ugly. It very well could get ugly. Here's the good news. It doesn't matter how ugly they make it. We are on the ascending path. We are moving upwards. So whatever they do into the darkness, the light is going to come in and work on that and create a better world. It's just right now, I think, is a good time. People buckle their seatbelts, hang on tight, be as prepared as you can, and just be kind of ready to work with your neighbors and be close to your friends. And I'm sure a lot of people by now maybe have family members asking them questions about what's going on with all of these drones. And, there's a lot going on with that too. We have many different layers, and a lot of people are out there sticking to the books, still trying to trying to say, well, by the book, and the only definition they really have is one that they read out of a book, and they won't go outside of that. They won't feel to see in the ether what exactly are some of these drones. They just go by what they know. And we all know that the mainstream has been controlling this information for a very long time. So this is a time where we all need to go within and tap our discernment and figure it out for ourselves, because they're not going to come out and tell us.
So you have both Biden and Kamala being rushed back to the White House last night. Many people are talking about it, buzzing. This one saying he looks terrified, something big is happening. There's all sorts of rumors. Is this regarding perhaps a bigger strike with NATO? Is this regarding, some are speculating still that for some reason they are going to have Biden step down, have Kamala step up and be a symbolic president for 1 month. Again, inauguration is a month away at this point in time for 47, but would that change? Would 47 be 48? And again, don't underestimate the symbolism in numbers. I know you guys don't, the regulars. And also, again, realize, the scripture, as many people are realizing that scripture is script, and everything is part of the script. There is from Matthew 24, those famous verses that talks about, wars and rumors of wars and all that. And then, pray that your flight will not take place in winter or on the Sabbath, for then there will be such great distress, unequaled from the beginning of the world until now, and never to be equaled again. And if those days had not been cut short, no one would survive. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be shortened. Again, we don't view the BIBLE from the same point of view as a traditional fundamentalist. We do look at it as containing a lot of the script. Also, yes, there is wisdom in there if you look. You could find references to the chakra systems, to the pineal gland, to having a functioning pineal gland, and to so much more. There is so much more symbolism in there, but it's encoded. And again, if you look at things from a superficial manner, you will never see it. And that's how things are placed in there. They're placed in there again. It's even said in the Bible that Yeshua, Jesus, spoke parables to the masses, but spoke plainly again to the inner circle. And this is just how the system really works that way too. Again, they give us all this obvious chaos, and destruction, or they'll even give us beautiful things, a nice Christmas tree ceremony or whatever. And meanwhile, there are dark things happening in the shadows that are being revealed. So what is really going on here? Well, a big event that transpired was a Russian attack on Kiev, and this was a attack using Iskander missiles and some other missiles as well. Advanced technology, not the hypersonics, but definitely a lot of damage. Very, very scary. And we were watching some video, and you see a very, very Tartarian-looking building damaged, and it's just so sad to see why the world goes through this time and time again. Again, you could also go biblical and say, "Woe to you, O earth and sea, for the devil has come to you with great wrath, knowing his time is very short." Yeah, and it's true. We're out of the Kali Yuga, even though perhaps the toughest part is just right ahead, knocking on the door. As you see Doomsday Bird up, the activity, the military plane activity, very, very interesting, very curious. There's lots of assets right now heading over into Europe. This was a pretty big missile strike over in Kiev, but again, Ukraine has struck into Russia. They've struck Moscow and other bigger cities. As you see, Russia here to strike all the command centers of NATO in Kiev. As what's going on is an escalation This is definitely an escalation, and I think, again, we could see it's been telegraphed that there's going to be a bigger escalation, that we probably will not be able to stop from happening at this point. But again, we keep putting out the prayers, the positive vibes and attention, and keep putting out the knowledge to other people that this is not really an organic situation. This is completely premeditated. So 8 to 10 missiles were fired, Iskanders and Kinzhals, and you have debris coming down too. Some supposedly were intercepted, which then fell down below. Again, a lot of these battles that go on now are going to be battles not necessarily involving even fighter pilots, but again, drones. Of course, drones are in the air. Drones are in the air everywhere. Monkeyworks, if you don't know, he covers all the planes and what they're doing and troop movements. And so, this was his latest one. He's done a few lately. And the activity is really kind of unprecedented. He makes no bones about it. He is former military himself. He views things kind of black and white, just to say, we don't agree with his perspective on some things, but he does do a very good job on covering all the movement of the planes, military-wise. And so what's happening is massive amount of troops and assets have been continually going over to Europe, also into the Middle East. So he thinks that we're imminent for some sort of escalation. It's very, very close, and he's been seeing this for a long time. In fact, lots of air refuelers up in the air. Which means there's also a lot of fighters up in the air on the West Coast, East Coast, and also over the Gulf, on the lookout for potential attack on CONUS, continental U.S., but at the same time, so many assets are going abroad. And there's been talk of NATO getting directly involved. There's been talk of 150,000 to 450,000 NATO troops literally putting their boots on the soil in Ukraine. And, again, this would be just another red line that would be crossed. And there's been so many red lines crossed that you can't keep track of them. So the Kinzhal is nuclear capable. They were obviously not nukes. But again, you also have this situation where Putin has talked about the use of the hypersonics on Kiev. Again, the hypersonics, they say, cannot be stopped. And, we were talking yesterday's video about him openly challenging, pick a place and try to stop it, and we'll tell you when it's coming. Let's see if you stop it. I mean, this insane world operates the way it does. And it looks insane. It is insane, the bigger scheme of things. Yet it is exactly what the system wants, which is, again, it's death and destruction, and it doesn't want to give up its power. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, and that's exactly what we have in place. Chinese agent pleads guilty to operating secret police station in New York. And if you had missed that previously, yes, there's secret police stations, not just in New York, but they've been all over. They were in London. They're in multiple places in the U.S., and, how could you have the potential adversary operating police stations in your country? It kind of boggles the mind, but it's part of a bigger plan here. This station was set up in mid-February 2022 and had since assisted an official from China's Ministry of Public Security, the country's police apparatus, to locate a person of interest. A California pro-democracy advocate who had served as advisor to a 2022 congressional candidate from New York State. Weeks before the station came into being, again, this is all just showing you how big in scope this has been. This is not just even years or even decades. I mean, when we say that, These plans go way back, and they boggle the mind. They boggle the mind from our perspective. And this is the hard part for people to grasp. That, again, it says in the Bible, right? A day to the Lord is as if 1,000 years, and 1,000 years to a day. Yeah, when you're an extraterrestrial being that lives thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, potentially hundreds of thousands of years, everything that was written down 2,000 years ago, or 1,700 years ago, some cases 2,500 years ago, that might just be a couple weeks ago. It's no big deal. It's all relative. It's all relative. So this is something that most people can't seem to get a grasp on, but it is part of the bigger picture. When you see all the drones going on, look at these drones. Wow, those are curious, aren't they? They're in China, 2022, and they are putting out substances for the plague upon the land. Oh, wow. That's out in the open in China. It's out in the open in China. It's no big deal. You see the drones. They are spraying substances. Yeah, it's just, it's Chinese citizens are just very, very used to that. Oh, the future, the future, the future. And then you have Trump tweeting at 1:16 a.m., eliminate a debt ceiling altogether. Eliminate the debt ceiling altogether. This should give us the idea that money is really, it's just a means to an end. It's worthless, so to speak, in the bigger scheme of things. It's only because we all think it's worth something that it is worth something. It's the same thing, obviously, with any sort of digital currency. It's not even like a penny, where at least you got a piece of copper there. It's something. No, it's absolutely nothing. Illusionary digits that are just simply an agreed upon until you no longer agree asset, and then it's worthless. Again, tangible items are just that. They're tangible. So again, in these times, if we do go into a World War III scenario, you're going to see rationing. You're going to see basic good costs escalate rapidly, vastly more than they've been up to this point, which last time I went into the store, it was $7.50 for a quart of organic strawberries. Imagine if that triples. We very well might see that in the next year and in the next months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's something that it's going to make it so difficult, because I know a lot of families are struggling as it is, and it's becoming more imperative that we put good organic food in our body, and they're not doing anything to make that easy in any way, shape, or form. Supporting our local farmers, supporting the local gardener, getting in with the gardeners of the towns and the cities, and starting to create places where people can do community gardening, where people take turns and also can get good food, because all they're giving us is poison, and there's too many people out there that are just kind of taking it in willingly because they don't think it's that big of a deal. But it is. It has all of these little nanotechs in there, and they are going inside the body, and they are doing things to make people very, very, very sick. And then when you try to detox them, they can really create a havoc too. It's just something that we see here and there, and it really gives people a lot of grief. We have to watch what we put in our bodies, and be very deliberate about detoxing. If you're not, it's just going to build up in pockets of the body, and it makes it very difficult to be healthy, have any energy, think clearly. So a lot of people are going through all of these symptoms, and it has everything to do with what they're eating.
Absolutely. This is from USNI News, United States Navy News, and it's talking about, the massive amount of drones, per se, that are going to be needed, and their plans. The Navy has programs for developing and acquiring unmanned surface vehicles, USVs, unmanned underwater vehicles, UUVs, of various sizes, and they're developing all sorts. Some that are going to be literally football fields long. I mean, massive drones on the surface of the water, under the water, and they're allotting a lot of money to it. It's interesting too when we look at those DEA, GEL numbers. When we look at those, we see the military expenditure of the U.S. Is projected to decline greatly after 2025. And I hadn't intended to go down this route. But Russia and China are going to vastly escalate, because those numbers show that they're banking on the fact that the BRICS nations are going to ultimately come out on top of this. At least according to those numbers, which again, their sources are supposed to be the DoD, Department of Defense, DHS, CIA, FBI, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we do see Russia has increased tremendously their military expenditure. China as well. In fact, there's many sources doing interviews on many different channels out there talking about the fact that they are ramping up tremendously. They are multiplying their military expenditures at an exponential rate. And what we have for now with the monetary system in the U.S. is that what they're planning on is pulling the plug and having us deflate like a pop balloon. But I do think there's more than one thing in store. I think, again, we have the bigger scheme of thing with the control system that gives the parameters that they want to have achieved. And yet within that control system, you have all these egocentric beings that all want to be the top dog, so to speak. And so they're always trying to do their thing and be the most, you could use the words that have been given to Roman empires, glorious, godlike. The Roman emperors were literally worshipped as a god on the earth. And, again, this comes all the way back down through history as, again, kingship was given from on high. And when they mean on high, they're not talking about the higher vibration frequencies. They're talking about, beings, again, that came to earth literally in ships that were up in the sky. And so now, everybody's getting very, very familiar with unmanned vehicles. These programs, they're going to be putting billions of dollars into this. But again, when we look at this, it's going to a new stage. Our reality is becoming very sci-fi, very Star Wars-like. The Navy defines MUSVs as being less than 200 feet in length, with displacement of less than 500 tons, which would make them the size of a patrol craft. And then they want bigger ones, XL UUVs. Again, stuff that's just enormous. This is all unmanned. This is all drones. So when you see a ship like this, looks kind of like maybe, destroyer size, what we would think of as destroyer size, and you think, wow, there's got to be a big crew there. I wonder how many people are on that, 200, 300, and they're totally unmanned. And they have the ability to fire tons of missiles and you name it. This is wild. This is another one. This is Boeing's Orca XL UUV, undersea totally. I go back to the visions I had back in 83 and 84. And the very first one I saw was what looked to be an alien invasion. And then after that, like right after that, it started to be about WW3 that I started to see. And yet I saw a world in which, there's these eyes in the skies watching people everywhere. And in specific, I saw people in cities where they were monitored by so many of these flying things that now are obviously drones. Back in the 80s, I really didn't have an explanation for it and was very, very much totally not I had no clue. I had not seen that type of technology. Now it's no big deal, obviously. But when you look at this, what they're doing and what they're building, and I think they already have drone armies out there. In reality, it's very much like Star Wars. All this money that they're constantly sending away into the black pit of the military-industrial complex. Meanwhile, here in Swanoa, this is all about Jennifer Grant. She's been sleeping in her car for 3 months because she's not getting any help with all the taxes she paid in her life. Why is she not getting any sort of help? Because it's never been their intention to help humanity. This is all about controlling humanity, and they're egocentric. They are not. They're not altruistic. They have no intention of doing things out of the goodness of their hearts, because they're, again, all about control. And when we look to Congress, even the ones that you might like, and I have to admit, I do and always did kind of like Rand Paul and Ron Paul, but the reality is they're still controlled opposition. There's no real help in the system. The help has to come from us in the making of something alternative, so there is no reason for the system to continue. That will happen.
It is. It does have to come from us, because those who might be able to help, you'll kind of notice that they will stay silent on certain things, because they don't want to be asked to help, or they don't want to be put on the spot, because they know they could be put on the spot. So there's no intentions from our government on either side to help us. I haven't seen it. I've heard a lot of talk. I haven't seen it. So I'm still waiting to see that. And while we wait, we can't just wait and think that they're going to make any changes. I think it's up to us, and we need to stand up and make some boundaries and say, hey, I'm not accepting this anymore. And I'm not sure how to do that, but we do need to do something, or they're just going to keep kind of rolling over us like a giant vehicle in Mad Max that has no care in the world about what it's running over. That's what they're going to continue to do if we don't stand up for ourselves. It's super critical. We have to do something for ourselves.
BlackRock and Vanguard are on point to own maybe as much as 2/3 of all single-family houses in the country by 2030. This is, again, that same old story. You will own nothing, and they say we're going to be happy with it. No, this is just the dying gasps of a very, very disharmonious system, and it couldn't be any more obvious. Here you have a woman. That's her house. You look back to this. There's a little camper there. She's been sleeping in the car or sleeping in the camper. It's just atrocious to see this. But there are a lot of people that have been helping the people in North Carolina. It certainly is not Pooty Poot, as he says, I want this scooter, Santa. Or, again, Father Christmas is the proper term in that particular area. As what we call Santa Claus, really didn't come about until around the 1890s, somewhere in that range. Look at this. You would think Santa Claus existed forever. Well, not as Santa Claus. Again, this is part of our short-term memory, because they would create the conditions that we think things were always like something. Like, they're always like this. Nothing ever changes. No, they change dramatically, rapidly. And new systems are totally put into place. We get saturated with it, and we think that it's the way things always were. But it's not the case. It's not the case. And going back to the lady in Western North Carolina, there are so many good Samaritans that have been helping people out there that it's wonderful, because this is what we have to do. We have to stick up for each other. We have to help each other. You're not going to get any help from a system that doesn't have a heart in the first place.
No, and I do think we need to offer continual help to North Carolina through whatever modalities that we see fit. I mean, it's people are still suffering. They're going to suffer for a very long time. The funds that could have rebuilt that area by now are long gone to places that you and I will never see. You know, I mean, what's going on is just so hideous and horrible. And no, I don't see any change on either side of the aisle. I just hear talk.
Yeah, the real change is not coming from the system. That's the big reveal. They're doing all they can because people are waking up to get people to buy into the fact that they're bringing us some change. They're trying to give us some cookies to keep us behaving ourselves. Yet at the same time, it's us. It's us. Listen to the... Those are happy feet. Those are happy feet. You know, here you go. This little guy he just grabbed the nose right off the snowman. You know, we have to just reach out and work with each other. That's the bottom line. You know, this system has kept us separated through so many different things, political, religious. I see it all the time. People that have done a great job in exposing certain things and getting people to realize and wake up certain things. And then yet in other areas, they're still literally creating the separation that the system wants by holding on to a particular paradigm. Whether we look at things as left-right paradigms, if it's religious indoctrination, if it's something very, very different, you know, could be economic, you know, it's all these terms. Everything we've been brought up with is part of the system. We have to think outside of the box. Think outside of the box. That is what they fear the most.
Indeed.
As always, guys, thank you so much for your support. Couldn't do it without you guys. Source bless and namaste.
Namaste.